syndrome is going to be just fun. Our principal presenter is Philippa Broadl. Philippa is a data librarian and a couple of AIMS projects a couple of years. And so this includes open access. And Terry Raylan, who's the director of ICT, is going to
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that. As John mentioned, I work at QUT and I'm the project manager for 2 joint library and high-performance computing and research support projects, one of which is the Research Data Australia Gold Standard Record Exemplars project that we'll be presenting on today. My colleague Kerry, a professor in QUT School of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, was invaluable to this project's success, lending her time and expertise to finding researchers with potentially shareable data sets. So Kerry will also be presenting a little bit later on. Okay, so before I go any further, I'd like to acknowledge the contributions of my colleague Lance Devine, who was the technical lead working on this project. I'd also like to acknowledge Gary Edisuria from QUT, Martin Borchert, QUT Library Associate Director, Information Resources and Research Support at QUT, Dr. Joe Young, Manager of High Performance Computing and Research Support at QUT, and of course Andrew White from ANZ. So today Kerry and I are going to present on the encounters that we had with researchers while undertaking this project. So we'll outline the reasons that researchers gave us for not wanting to share their data sets, the altruistic motivations that we put towards them, and the eventual achievement-oriented benefits that we found were more compelling when trying to find research data sets to describe and add to Research Data Australia. Okay, so just a bit of background on the project. The project was 100% funded by ANZ, and funding went towards the salary of 2 project staff, 1 high-performance computing research support specialist and myself. The HPC research support specialist was employed for 6 months and myself for 9. We began in December 2011 and we finished the project in October this year. The project aimed to address the issues of richness, they being quality and connectivity with respect to research data description records. Before this project began, many institutions were producing metadata records to add to Research Data Australia without a defined standard. So along with guidelines for the production of high-quality, information-rich data descriptions and a return on investment assessment for the cost of creating records, our focus was on identifying shareable QUT research data sets and creating exemplary records to be used by ANZ as exemplars. In order to create these metadata records, we first had to find the shareable data, which is where we had contact with researchers, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Approximately 20 researchers were contacted via email and telephone, with 12 agreeing to meet with us to discuss the particulars of sharing their data. Kerry and I conducted a total of 11 data interviews, which consisted of a mix of unstructured conversational consultations and then structured data interviews using a template that I created. We met with at least 1 researcher from each of the 6 QUT faculties, so they being law, business, science and engineering, health, creative industries and education. A total of 10 collection records and associated party activity activity records were created. 5 of these were openly accessible and had openly accessible data, and the other 5 had data available via mediated access. Okay, so before we started interviewing researchers, we, of course, everyone here also does know that the open sharing of research data significantly supports the research community by allowing researchers to combine data sets to create new data, therefore enabling new data discoveries, hence the standing on the shoulders of giants metaphor. Open research data also helps researchers save time and money by collecting existing data, hence the reduce, reuse, recycle metaphor here. And thirdly, publicly available data created during projects funded by public monies also assist as well. So This metaphor here is if you pay the piper, you get to call the tune. Also, openly accessible research data advances scientific discovery, enables the exploration of topics previously not envisioned by the initial investigators, and eliminates duplication of data. So given that there are many altruistic reasons for sharing data and making it freely accessible, Kerry and I asked each other how much open data is actually available and reusable. In 2011, my colleagues Craig Milne, Ellen Thompson and Lance Devine participated in the ANZ-funded Seeding the Commons project, where they interviewed approximately 200 researchers to determine the type and quantity of data that they possessed. They found that only 10 data sets could be made available online, 40 could be made available via mediated means, 103 were potentially shareable, and 339 were not shareable at all for various reasons. So we thought surely there are more than 10 data sets without such extensive limitations that they couldn't be shared at all. And looking at Craig, Ellen and Lance's notes, we can see that there are a number of recurring themes that resonated with us as we went through the Gold Standard project. Okay, so what are the reasons we encountered for not sharing data? To make things more interesting, Kerry and I will present the reasons that we were given in the form of 3 short role plays.
You must be sick of death by PowerPoint.
Okay.
Come in.
Afternoon, Professor Pimplesworth. I've been told you have a fantastic data set on teenage acne.
Why, yes. I've surveyed over 100,000 Australian teenagers on the location and size of their pustules.
How very interesting.
Oh, yes. It's led to a number of exciting results. We now know that the time teenagers spend in the bathroom is directly correlated with the number of pimples on their nose.
This sounds like a really significant data set. You should make it available via Research Data Australia.
You mean other people could access my data?
Well, yes. I'm sure it would help other people researching parenting methods if they could access your excellent work.
Oh, I don't think that's such a good idea.
But why not?
Privacy, confidentiality. These young people have entrusted me with such very personal information. Imagine if it got out on Facebook about their pimples. They'd lose all their social life.
But surely you could de-identify the data set.
Well, it's very kind of you to suggest that, but my ethics approval, I'm sorry, I remember now. I only got approval to use the data in this project.
You do realise, though, that you can get your ethics approval revised?
Look, it takes so long to deal with the ethics process, and I really am terribly busy. Oh, look, I'm terribly sorry, but I don't think I'm going to be able to make my data available.
Oh, that's a shame, but thanks for your time anyway. Goodbye.
Oh, at least that's a use for the ethics application.
All right, number 2. Hello, Dr. Dealings. I emailed you last week about making your research data available, but I never heard back from you.
Yes, I was meaning to reply. I was just a little busy.
That's okay. Shall we start with talking about the data that you've been collecting?
Oh, well, I've been doing some fabulous research with banana growers on techniques to get the bends out of the bananas.
Okay. Well, this sounds like it would be really useful data for others researching fruit reconfiguration. For example, those de-seeding passion fruit. You have to share your data.
You mean other people would have my data?
Well, yes, it would save them time and money.
Oh, well, for myself, I'd like nothing more than to share my data, but I'm not sure if the farmers would feel the same way.
Is it possible to ask them, though, if they're willing to share their data?
Oh, I could ask them, but there's some information they might not want others to know, such as their competitors, their customers, the regulators. I think really it would be a bit of a waste of time because I'm sure they'd say no.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for your time. Good luck with the banana bending.
Bye.
Okay. Okay, and the last one. Oh, sorry. Unless you get dressed.
Come in.
Good afternoon, Professor Plant Lover. Thanks for agreeing to meet with me. As I mentioned at the faculty forum yesterday, there is a way that you can make your data available via Research Data Australia. Everyone knows that you're one of Australia's leading plant professionals.
Yes, well, so I am. Indeed, I got the Silver Stem Award for my research in colour variation of Singapore daisies only last week.
I thought they only came in yellow.
Of course, they only come in yellow, but it's the variations of yellow that's what makes it so exciting. This is really exciting new territory in modern botany. A number of new international conferences are springing up around it.
Really? I guess that makes it all the more important that you share your data with the international research community.
And why would I want to do that?
Well, other researchers would benefit, and as I'm sure you're aware, QUT's Manual of Policy and Procedures mandates that unless you have a specific and valid reason for not doing so, you must make your research data available via open access.
Who reads the QUT Manual of Policies and Procedures? I certainly don't. I know others would love to get their hands on my data, especially those Siberians, but by gosh, I'm the one who's done all the hard work and I will be the one who's reaping the rewards.
Well, what about releasing the data at the end of the project, when you've finished with it?
Oh, well, the project funding might come to an end, but there still could be discoveries to be found in the data. And if other people saw them and published, you can bet they wouldn't be including me on the publication. There's no honour out there among researchers.
But your research was funded by the Australian Research Council, and they actually encourage open access to data.
Why would they do that?
Well, because your research was publicly funded, they think that your data and the results of your research should be made available for use by others.
Oh, look, girlie, I've got the funding because I've got the track record. I've spent 10 years researching the daisy and another 10 researching the Singaporeans.
Well,
I'm the only person equipped to do this project. Oh, yes, there's a piddling amount of public money involved, but I'm the one making the contribution and I'm going to reap the reward.
I think you'll find it's actually the university who owns the data.
It's mine, and when I leave this university, it's going with me. The door's over there. Goodbye.
Okay, so I should say, obviously, that they were not a true reflection of the interviews we conducted, but we hope to convey a sense of the obstacles that we faced. So to summarise our skits, we found that the two most popular given reasons for not sharing data were ethics and industry partner concerns. So while not explicitly stated as a reason, losing personal ownership and competitive advantage was also a genuine concern amongst researchers. After the first few interviews, we discovered that in order to persuade researchers to be more willing to share their data, we would need to think about what really motivates them. We thought that more compelling and achievement-oriented benefits needed to be identified for them to even consider making their data or products of their research activities available. So Kerry and I will now show you how we overcame the obstacles of industry partner, ethics and personal ownership concerns to convince our reluctant researchers to make their metadata available and their data available via mediated access.
Come in.
Good afternoon, Professor Pimplesworth. I've been told you have a fantastic data set on teenage acne.
Yes, I've surveyed over 100,000 teenagers on the size and location of their pustules. It's led to a number of exciting research results correlating with the time teenagers spend in the bathroom.
Okay, well this sounds like a significant research data set. You should make it available on Research Data Australia.
You mean other people access my data?
Well, yes, it would help other people researching parenting methods if they could access your excellent work.
Oh, I don't think that would be a good idea. Privacy, confidentiality. The young people have put their trust in me, you know.
Well, maybe instead of making it publicly available, perhaps mediated access might be an option for you.
What do you mean by mediated access?
Well, people would contact you about getting access to your data and you would be able to decide if and when they have access.
but they'd still get access.
Not necessarily. You don't have to give them the data. Instead, you could run their queries over your data. Such a collaborative effort could lead to joint publications.
Oh. You mean I could get another publication with them just by running some queries over my data, and I get to keep the data?
That's right.
Protecting, of course, the ethics of the young people.
Of course, of course. We're actually running a seminar at the library next week on ethics and data sharing. Would you like to come along?
Oh, yes, I'll be there.
Okay, great. See you later.
Bye.
I'm coming. Hello, Dr. Dealings. I emailed you last week about making your research data available, but I never heard back from you.
Yes, I've been rather busy. But I've been doing a lot of research into banana growing, working with farmers on this techniques of getting the bends out of their bananas.
This sounds like it would be really useful data for those researching fruit reconfiguration. For example, the passion fruit diseases. You have to share your data.
You mean I'd make my data public? Oh, I'm not sure the farmers would like that.
Well, if you'd prefer, you can make it available via mediated access. You don't have to put it out there for everyone to reuse, to click and download.
So how would that work?
Well, we could publish descriptions of your data and invite other researchers, perhaps with similar data sets, to combine with yours in a joint research project. You could work together with the passion fruit diseases.
Oh.
With CPUs. And it's the people who can think big and think those big problems, which are the ones that characterised, as I said, the GA teams that were working on this project, are the ones that I think we need to foster and encourage. Thank you.
We have time for a couple of questions, perhaps some alternative opinions. It is kind of a big room without very efficient, so I'm going to just ask you to come to my question.
In Manly in 2009, in a paper which I don't think has been referenced anywhere, and I should know because I gave it, I talked about exactly what you're saying here. I've come out of a hydrological modelling background and helped some geoscientists do some seismic processing. And I think the thing that you've missed in that, which captures it perfectly, the last slide of my talk was there is a place for people coming out of the sciences with a computational background. The difficulty you're going to find, I think, and I now work in a computer science department with John, is people who are being trained as computer scientists will probably find it harder to move back and interact with people than people coming out of the domain sciences who have the HPC parallel programming expertise. That's my comment.
Yeah, no, it's, well, as I say, I'm worried about this paper because it doesn't have a statistical foundation for it. But when we actually looked at the guys, because about 20 people that were interviewed all up, you could actually see them at their career point. So like the guy who'd done PhD in physics, he just flipped over into the science. And it's just amazing that it was just a very, very fine line between the two teams. Yeah. I mean, the issue boils down to, do you teach the computer scientists geoscience, or do you teach the geoscientists computer science? And that's the battle.
You have another question? I might actually just comment that 3 years ago at Victoria, we changed our Bachelor of Science to ensure that no majors require more than half a degree to encourage people to actually do 2 majors. The intention, at least on my part, was a lot of those people were combining computer science with science major. Although it's working. Okay, if there aren't any other questions, you've got a couple of minutes if you want to switch rooms.